I couldn't believe my eyes. No job, no immigration. I had to go back to my home country.
Unlike you, who wanted to travel, I wanted to stay.
Today we'll talk about me having to return to Russia. But how did a Siberian girl like me end up in America in the first place? And I have a special guest to help us figure it out. Hi, I'm Olga with A+ Russian, and this is Lenny, also with A+ Russian, and he happens to be my husband.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Lenny also didn't grow up here in the United States, and his experiences will help us understand better what happened to me.
So how are we going to do this? Am I going to ask you questions or are you going to ask me questions?
Yeah, question sounds good.
Okay, so both. So, you had to go back, but how did you end up here in the first place?
It all started when I was 16.
And that's when you realized you wanted to leave Russia?
I was dreaming about traveling, and every time, you know this feeling when you're looking at an airplane and it's flying and you're wondering, where are those people traveling? So that's what I was thinking when I was looking at airplanes in a small Siberian town.
Wow. You know, as I'm listening to the airplane go by outside our window, I'm thinking that it all started at 16 for me as well.
And it was right after the collapse of the Soviet Union.
Right around that time.
What happened? How did your mom get a visa for you?
At the time, there was a war going on, a war in Afghanistan, and my conscription age was coming up.
For those of you who are learning Russian, conscription age is призывной возраст.
My mom and I have Jewish heritage. Our way out was by reuniting with other Jewish relatives in a country where it was safer. And our relatives happened to be in the United States.
Relatives is родственники, and Jewish relatives is еврейские родственники.
Yeah, so that's what we did. But let's go back to your story. You, from what I understand and from what I know, at 16 you were thinking about it, but you weren't quite getting on the plane just yet.
I was about to choose my major, and as I was dreaming about traveling and connecting with other people, I decided to choose teaching foreign languages and cultures.
Oh, interesting. So that's kind of what you're doing right now on YouTube.
That's right.
What a coincidence.
What a coincidence. Какое совпадение. So I started looking for different opportunities, and that's how I learned about cultural exchange programs. And cultural exchange program is программа по культурному обмену.
Wow, that's a mouthful. But we'll put it up on the screen for you. Программа по культурному обмену. Those are probably hard to get into.
Oh yeah, those are competitive. I ended up applying for the Fulbright scholarship, and there were only 20 students who were selected to go study to the United States for the master's degree that year, out of the whole Russia. So it was...
I thought 20 from your city.
No, not from the city, from the whole country.
No way.
So it was really, and it is still very competitive, but it's so worth it. And don't think that I applied and I immediately got it. I got multiple rejection letters, but I kept applying and I kept trying. And finally, I got in. And I couldn't believe my eyes when I saw an acceptance letter to the University of Washington for the master's program.
The good old UW. I remember we also applied to join our family here in the United States, and we also were watching the mail. So like the person living in the United States had to invite you to come here. Otherwise, the whole process couldn't even start. The whole Iron Curtain that she talked about in one of your videos.
The Iron Curtain is железный занавес.
Even though the invitation was sent to us, we didn't even receive it on the first or the second or the third try. But eventually when we got it, that's when the process started, and well, the rest is history.
And invitation is приглашение.
Приглашение в посольство — это одно, а вызов — это другое. Вызов без вызова тебя никто не будет приглашать в посольство.
Wow, that must have been really hard to leave everything behind and to come to the United States as refugees. Refugees is беженцы.
For me as a teenager, unlike you, who wanted to travel, I wanted to stay. And I don't think I fully appreciated how my mom really saved my life and offered me a better life here in the United States.
And how did you guys survive? You just came with a suitcase and no money, no English.
You really couldn't bring more than 2 suitcases and $100 per person.
So you basically had $100 with you.
I had
And that's it.
$100 and my mom had $100.
Oh my God.
So we had 2. If we were just on our own, I don't think we could survive with that. But we did have some support. There are refugee resettlement agencies. An agency in New York helped us out with finding us an apartment that we could actually afford, places where we can learn English. And yeah, our relatives also, they put us up at first. But eventually we made it on our own. But it sounds like you had some support too. How did the whole Fulbright program work?
Wow, those guys are so amazing. The Fulbright Scholarship is fully funded by US Department of State, Госдепартамент США, and they paid for everything. They got us tickets, they gave full tuition waiver, and even paid for room and board.
Those sneaky Americans, they want to apply soft power by inviting you here, feeding you, teaching you, and then you go back and you disseminate American ideas in other countries. That's really
not
clever.
Only, well, that's the essence of soft power, as opposed to hard power when somebody makes you love your culture or whatever. The program also sponsors US citizens who want to study or work in other countries. So it's not only bringing other scholars to the United States, it's also bringing Americans to other countries. So it's a full cycle. People get to know each other, experience another lifestyle, and they fall in love with it.
You feel pretty passionate about it, and I can understand why, because right now, you've talked about it on your channel. We hear about it on the news every single day, unless of course it's Russian news. Then you hear something completely different. But the opposite of soft power is hard power, and it's something that our country, that we left a little while ago, is doing to its neighboring country, Ukraine. And as you know, A+ Russian does not support that. Okay, so you came here for 2 years for free, and the Department of State completely sponsored that. That's cool for you, but what's in it for them?
The way the program works is that after completing their studies, Fulbright grantees need to return to their home countries.
So you can just finish your studies and get a job here?
No job, no immigration. Before you can do that, you need to go back to your home country for 2 years. After that, you can do whatever you want, but you need to complete a 2-year homestay requirement.
So what did that mean for you? Didn't you get married?
Well, actually, we got married, and Lenny learned that I had to go back to my home country. So what did he do? Did he choose to stay here and complete his PhD? Or did he choose to follow the love of his life? Did he give up everything and followed me to Siberia after 20 years spent in the United States? What do you guys think? Let us know in the comments. It's not an easy decision.
It sure wasn't. And I hope you don't judge me for what I did. But to find out, subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell, and we'll tell you in the next video.
And if you want to learn some Russian while you're thinking about it, click on the playlist over here. But how did an American girl... But how did SIB...
How did an American girl end up in Siberia?
Да.
Good question.
Подожди.
Это про меня.